It's a new whisper into your brain that set you on a treadmill. Hey, and they made you change your name.
Okay, ready?
So I just look on it, Phil?
Yeah, just talk to me.
Yep.
Chris Munday joined the Royal Australian Navy at just 16 years old. Although he initially set out to become a surveyor, he trained as a sick berth attendant and at one point served as a sole medic aboard 3 different Navy ships. Chris's love of music runs deep. Today he remains active in his local fire station as the Brigade Chief and by supporting former service members as a welfare officer in North East Tasmania.
Loneliness was tough, the toughest role you ever played. Hollywood created a superstar. Hey, pain was the price that you paid.
But my reason for joining the Navy was not so much in fact, it wasn't anything to do with granddad or dad. It was I wanted to get away from the home. I was living with my mother. We didn't get on. The 2 brothers, we still don't get on. And so at 16 years and 5 days old, I'm in the Navy.
Like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in. And I would have
Did grade 6, and then the first year of senior school, Mum decided I should learn French, German and Latin all in the same year. And that was the end of my school days, basically. I went through to grade 9 in St Virgil's, and if I did pass, it would have been only just, but I had a word with the headmaster and I said, pass me and I'll join the Navy. I'm out of your hair. So they passed me. And I joined the Navy in October '66 as a JR. You could join back in those days at 15 and a half. And so you actually had on the Sydney 16-year-olds in Vung Tau Harbour. And I get a little bit amused when I hear, we're only 19. I think some of us were 16 and 17, you know. But of course, we weren't on the 2-way firing range. We were on the Sydney. It never went down in my Navy history, you know, like I don't think Jim and I didn't talk about it. I don't think he was just more interested in what was going on up here, you know. And what was going up here was basically came from the black dog, and it came from pain from the back injury. And that's how he tied all that together, you know, and pulled TPI. I was stunned and amazed, and also, well, to this day I still feel a bit guilty about it, but all you can do is, we can't afford not to have it because I couldn't work. And, you know, put in as much as you can and you feel a bit better. You can look at yourself in the mirror, you know, where it might have been a bit harder if you don't put in.
I'm gonna take my problem to the United Nations. Yeah, my doc says, quote, love to help you, son, but you're too young to vote. Sometimes
one that I'm really proud of was King Island. I flew there twice to see an old lady who had been knocked back 3 times for war widow because her husband never got TPI or EDA or whatever. But I chased down his service and he died of cancer that came from skin melanomas, and he'd spent 10 years in the desert without a cap and whatever, you know, so it wasn't hard to punch that through. And she was just so pleased, you know, she was just over the moon that somebody had actually recognised. I think she wasn't broke, I think just that somebody had recognised his service and, you know, what she went through after, sort of thing, you know. That worked quite well, you know. I think we doubled the turnover in a pretty short time. Janet's a wonderful cook, so we had lots of people coming over weekend, and you know, the sauces and the way that she did the steaks and stuff was what made us. Then we sort of had the claim of the best draft beer in the state and put that out there. That probably upset a few publicans as well, but that's your job. But the thing was that people ask about the beer drinking pig, and of course we started that with a fellow called Grog, and he had his wedding tackle still, did Grog, and biggest pig I ever saw, and it was definitely, I think the beer and whatever, he turned out to be, he was a monster. When he got on the back of my Hilux, it went like this. You know, he was a big pig and quite friendly, but then he grew tusks like this and became a pig that didn't take pushing and prodding and poking too lightly. And so when we left him here, and about a year later, we came back to have a look. It wasn't that long, but sometime later, and he was a bit thinner and very unhappy, so we took him with us. Took him down south to where we were living, and they got their own pig, and I'd hate to think how many pigs Hubbard have had experience through since, but quite a few. Yeah.
So Chris today, he's talking to 16-and-a-half-year-old Chris. And back then, what advice would you give your younger self?
Nah, I've had a good life, you know. I've spent a long time with a black dog, and serious black dog, and my wife's had to live with that, and that would have been pretty hard, you know. Yeah, I might go to bed, back in the old days, I'd go to bed for 5 days with the blankets pulled over my head and, you know, maybe drink some water. That was it, you know. I might take off in the van and come back when my head said I could come back, you know. But not so much since I joined the fire brigade, and not so much lately. It seems to be a thing that is getting less. But I self-treat myself, and we won't go any further with that.
Well, I'm gonna raise a fuss, gonna raise a holler. I'm working on summer, trying to make $1.